What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Finally, another title reign. I like doing these because of the fact that not many people on YouTube seem to do them. I like going in depth with people's title reigns and talking about what's good, what's bad, and all that. But anyways, with that said, in Edge's storied career, he had never gotten the chance to lead a brand as the top babyface. This was more important due to the fact that he was an excellent heel. I mean, nobody really says, oh, the Edge guy is a better face than heel, and I've never heard that statement in my life. Edge was such a great main event heel that nobody even thought of him being a babyface. I mean, that bastard was the cause of everything bad in my childhood. Nobody's got me to hate them more than Edge. But anyways, despite the fact that Edge had an awkward run in early 2010 as a good guy, WWE was ready to do it once more, but with the title. In my opinion, I feel this run worked well compared to the first one. Edge had some good-ass matches on a weekly basis, was exciting and electric. There wasn't the spear thing, it was annoying. So let's go back to 2010 to talk about the last title reign the Rated R Superstar had. Okay, if you watched this Kane video, I explained what led to the matchup at TLC. Edge captured the title in the TLC match against Kane, Alberto Del Rio, and Rey Mysterio. This made him into a 10-time champion, which put him ahead of, believe it or not, both John Cena and Randy Orton at the time. Obviously, if there wasn't a brand split, Edge wouldn't have all those titles, but it happened anyways. He was the most reliable guy in WWE at this point. They were like, oh, if there's a problem, Edge gets the title. It showed just how good of a worker he was. His legacy was cemented as one of the greatest wrestlers to have competed in the WWE. Now that the Rated R Superstar was champ, he addressed his fans on a live edition of SmackDown 2 days later. He answered everybody's question, that being, was it worth it to go through Paul Bearer and Kane? He emphatically shouted yes. Edge made the TLC match seem like complete hell, but again, it was worth it. Years ago, he told himself that he'd be world champion, and lo and behold, he wasn't trying to be arrogant, but felt that there needed to be a great amount of confidence in order for him to achieve these things. Kane heard enough telling him nobody wants to hear, and the former champ wanted to write the ending for Edge's story, and no, it wasn't going to be a happy one. The Rated R Superstar poked fun at the Kane promo before asking him if he wants to do it right now, and the Big Red Machine slowly marched down to the ringside area before shockingly, keyword shockingly, backed off. He wanted to take his time in getting the title back, opting not to play Edge's game. About that match, well, it occurred 2 weeks later on the first SmackDown of 2011. Before they did have that match, however, they faced off in tag team action. The good guys scored the W, and come to think about it, Rey and Edge used to team up a lot during 2010-11. It just gives me SmackDown 6 vibes. Regarding that world title match, well, it was a last man standing match. I remember watching this one vividly. It wasn't outstanding or must watch like that week's WWE title match, but still an enjoyable affair. They brawled in the ringside area, the back, the crowd. They pulled out all the stops in order to ensure the other man remains down, and at one point Edge had to use Matt Striker in order to get up. The champ had to isolate Kane's legs in order to get a chance at winning, and even then he had to rely on this little thing called luck, as Kane's legs gave way due to the concerto from earlier on. So Edge retained the title. Later that night, a triple threat match was held to determine the #1 contender for the World Heavyweight Championship. Big Show, Cody Rhodes, and Drew McIntyre were the contestants, but then Vicky Guerrero, who was acting as the general manager that night because Teddy Long was away, made it a fatal 4-way match, inserting her boyfriend Dolph Ziggler. He was all pissy, wah, you made me lose the title, whatever, and she made good on that whole ordeal with this. During the match, Big Show had a hell of a lot of momentum until Wade Barrett, of all people, attacked. And the three heels tried taking advantage, but to no avail after he kicked out of all of their signature moves. Dolph ended up stealing it a few minutes later, however, and up to this point, he had never challenged for a world title. He was always competing in the mid-card, and looking back on it, it was definitely the right time for him to get that title shot. Teddy Long ended up returning to Ziggler as #1 contender, and he was anything but happy. Fast forward to the end of the night, Edge was going to host his own talk show with the guest being Dolph Ziggler. I wasn't too fond about facing another monster tonight, that being Vicky Guerrero, but Edge acknowledged how Ziggler's victory was somewhat controversial. Vicky had to interrupt and proclaimed her boy the next champion, so the Rated R Superstar went back in time, mentioning the past. Ziggler was getting irritated and wanted to leave, but Edge continued insulting his girl. She made Edge seem like the villain on the contrary, calling it a big regret, their marriage. The former IC champion felt that Edge was very unappreciative of what Vicky did for his career. He's like, she's the one that helped you get back on top. Vicky then pulled up a clip of Edge cheating on her, with Alicia Fox. What I find even funnier about this is the fact that the commentary team didn't mention her by name, just calling her a wedding planner. The world champion was like, I sense where all the hostility's coming from, to which Vicky responded, Edge felt that Dolph just might be more of a man in himself, because cheating is a very serious thing. So Edge showed a clip of Dolph cheating on her with Caitlyn. So he was very close to reaching a boiling point, so Ziggler just whacked him in the face. Edge rights the ship and catches the attention of Vicky, and by the looks of it was contemplating a spear, but Ziggler made the save. And just thinking about it, wrestlers are so damn crazy. The challenger ended up zigzagging him onto the steel steps, generating a "You suck" chant to end SmackDown on top. The following week, well, Teddy Long was attacked. Tragedy had struck SmackDown's residential playa, and the prime suspects, the core, denied their involvement in this before asking Vicky if she needs any help. So, she booked a match between Edge and one of the members of Nexus Light. Ended up being Justin Gabriel, as you know. But regarding the whole Vicky Guerrero thing, she was in kayfabe the SmackDown consultant of Teddy Long. That's one thing to mention. That's why she was the GM, the acting general manager. Later that night, the world champion interrupted the WWE champion, leading to a verbal confrontation between the two. Edge was fed up of these Raw rejects coming out here wasting everybody's time. And since they were facing off on Monday, Edge said that The Miz was number 27, scratch that 32, on things he's got to worry about. He asked him to leave the ring because he's got a match, and Miz obliged. Since the apprentice got offended, he re-entered the ring and took a spear. Miz teased a potential confrontation, but backed off. Regarding the main event, well, Edge got his ass beat, and he lost the match too. They ended up leaving him damaged goods, which Ziggler acted like was unfortunate. He obviously was loving it. Kicking off the final Raw before the Raw Rumble, Edge demanded his match then and there with The Miz because he didn't want to wait. Instead, the anonymous Raw general manager, Edge's biggest enemy from the 10s, sent in a message. Apparently, he's got a matchup next against 3 other heels. Whoever eliminates him enters the Rumble at number 40. He made the 3 mid-carders look like jobbers, and after the match, thanked the anonymous GM. He teased doing something to the laptop, but the new Nexus interrupted. But regarding his match with The Miz, the WWE champion dominated. He took advantage of the rib injury and went to work. Edge manages to fight back, and just when he attempts the spear, Dolph Ziggler causes the DQ, and I thought I was watching 2021 Raw for a moment. Randy Orton then sprints out there attacking The Miz, bounced Ziggler around, and this led to a rated RKO reunion on SmackDown later that week. Mr. Rated R managed to steal a clean victory, but after that match, Vicky Guerrero decided that until further notice, the spear is illegal, and if he attempts it at the Royal Rumble, Ziggler's champion. Edge, after hearing this, disobeyed her direct orders by spearing Ziggler 3 times into Sunday. As for the match itself, well, it was damn good. Up to this point, it may have been Ziggler's best match. I think it was one of his very best matches. Singles, I should note. The case for it, well, it was a big fight situation. The action was pretty good in itself. Edge had to find other ways to win it. Ziggler was given that Rumble title test run, and it's so crazy to think that everyone was raving about this guy. I remember thinking he was awesome as well. I thought he was very charismatic and entertaining in whatever the hell he was doing. Ziggler managed to take control early on, but after the double crossbody, Edge began building momentum. There was a nice powerbomb counter, exciting back and forth action. The crowd was awesome as well. They ate everything up. And at one point, Dolph hit that damn zigzag, and again, the crowd thought the title was changing hands. Vicky Guerrero got involved, leading to Kelly of all people running down there and beating her ass. And meanwhile in the ring, Dolph hit a dastardly zigzag. Michael Cole thought that was it, but on the edge of defeat, no pun intended, the champion kicked out. Wow. He righted the ship before Eddie Guerrero popped up in his mind, and yes, he cheated. And again, he takes a page out of Latino Heat's book. Once he stands up, Edge proceeds to hit the kill switch, paying homage to Captain Charisma himself, Christian, to retain the title. I loved watching that match. It had all the positive intangibles, ACS, action, crowd, and story. All of it was good. I can't really say I was disappointed with this match watching it again. Like, I watched it a few times over the last couple of years, enjoyed it in every single watching. Later that night, Alberto Del Rio, who had just debuted a few months earlier, won the Royal Rumble. Come to think about it, it's wild to see that WWE had enough faith in a man that was only called up after a few months. Was he the best choice? It depends on your perspective. They wanted to draw money, and with Del Rio, there was potential of continuing to make money in Mexico. He was a good worker, at the time. But, who else could have been the best choice to win the Royal Rumble? As a fan, and I'm just speaking for myself, I'd rather see Christian win it for the story, but Del Rio makes sense. He did seem like one of the bigger rising stars at the time, so there's that. With that said, the next night on Raw, the Mexican aristocrat made his WrestleMania decision. It was pretty quick because WWE tends to have guys tease their choices for about a month before attacking their opponent at Elimination Chamber or something. Del Rio had a mariachi band come out and perform. He came out flexing his Benz on us, bragged about his win before the WWE champion interrupted, preferring to hear Del Rio's announcement in person. He made Del Rio's win seem like no big deal and asked him to choose the WWE title. All of a sudden, he revealed that Edge made fun of the Royal Rumble winner, stating that from his accent to his clothing of choice, he sucks. Your accent sucks, your cars are rental, your clothes, your scarf, they're all stupid. Alex Riley even said, Edge has no respect for a second-rate JBL meets Tito Santana ripoff like you. They had to go there. Del Rio sensed what's up, and suddenly the SmackDown champion appeared. The Rated R superstar admitted that he doesn't like nor respect Del Rio, but what Miz said was wrong. He wouldn't say those things behind his back. He'd say them in front of his face. Del Rio's like, it's my destiny to win the title, whatever. Then he's like, at WrestleMania, I'll be the new, short pause, World Heavyweight Champion. Yup, it's been confirmed. Del Rio's gonna challenge Edge. The Rated-R Superstar gave him a souvenir for this decision in the form of a right hand, but nonetheless, Alberto bounced back by smashing the guitar over Edge. He then locked Edge in the cross arm breaker, signaling what's to come. Later that night, Edge's arch nemesis John Cena cost The Miz the match, giving it to the Rated-R Superstar. And before Edge could put his undivided attention on JBL 2.0, he had to defend his title once again against Ziggler in a mixed tag team match, teaming up with Kelly. He got the job done, but afterwards Vince fired her. And as for Edge, he's got to defend for the 100th time, and yes, it was against Dolph Ziggler, but ex-wife was the special referee on this occasion. Dolph managed to send a message ahead of the title match, I should know. Now about that, Edge knew that the odds were stacked against him, and basically was in the unknown as to how he was going to keep that title. One thing to know is that the spear was still banned. But anyways, it was against some back and forth action, but Vicky Guerrero, I assumed, felt compelled to watch the McMahon referee matches beforehand because she was really trying to prevent an Edge victory in storyline. Hell, she even attempted to spear him, but it was very unsuccessful. She felt pain in her ankle. She went out to the outside to get it checked on, and it was at this moment where Edge decided to spear Dolph Ziggler. Unfortunately, though, there was no ref out there, so he goes for it again, and instead of a referee coming out, Clay Matthews, of all people, comes in. The Super Bowl 45 winner with the Packers counted the fall to give Edge the victory. SmackDown was in Green Bay, hence his appearance, and plus, the Super Bowl had occurred about a week earlier, so it makes sense. Cool. Unfortunately for Edge, she would come back to bite him on the 600th episode of SmackDown. After winning a huge 12-man tag team match, Vicky Guerrero decided to ruin everything. She was like, a spear was illegal. The football player, yeah, she didn't call him by his name, wasn't a registered official. And by the way, Edge is stripped of the gold. She also confirmed that Dolph will be coronated, and then she placed Edge responsible for the Teddy Long incident. Because of this, Edge... You're fired! What the hell? Booker T's reaction says it all. Regarding Dolph Ziggler, he was literally crowned the champion. He was in the record books as the World Heavyweight Champion, despite the fact that he didn't win it, despite the fact that this was the first time. It's just bizarre thinking that Dolph Ziggler's first title was literally handed to him. All of a sudden, Teddy Long, of all people, returned. Vicky was speechless. He claimed that she had the most to gain for this. As a matter of fact, she was the first person on the scene. Vicky constantly tried explaining things, so Teddy's like, shut up, and damn, playa wasn't playing. Guerrero was under a hell of a lot of pressure, so she admitted Dolph did it, and because of this, he booked a world title match then and there. Oh, and Edge is rehired. Talk about momentum shifting. After the commercial break, Edge is on fire. Spear is reinstated, of course. Dolph evades it initially, tries to take control. He manages to cut the challenger's momentum from under him, but then as he goes for the zigzag, he's unsuccessful, misses the clothesline, and boom, spear. 1, 2, 3. That was it. It took about 3 minutes for Edge to win it. This made him an 11-time champion. Mac Militant plays, and Teddy Long informs Dolph that he's fired. Booker T's laughing it up, and Edge serenades them with that certain song. So that happened. I find it funny and sad at the same time that Ziggler's title reigns were either because of Money in the Bank or because it was literally handed to him. The decision in itself just seemed to stat pad Edge's resume. Add to that, it was kind of pointless to give Dolph a title he never won. But whatever. Switch and swap to make the 600th episode of SmackDown memorable. On the other side of things, in kayfabe, it would make sense for Vicky to, crown her boy the champion. It just sounds like something she'd do. Like I said, I thought Dolph was talented enough to win a title without the need for Money in the Bank or the title being handed to him. I just think it's a damn shame he never got to win it without any of those things. He was very deserving. He was one of the best workers, characters in WWE from 2011 to 2013. And yeah, I just think it's unfortunate. Despite this tumultuous month, Edge had to defend the gold in an Elimination Chamber match against Drew McIntyre, Rey Mysterio, Kane, Big Show, and Wade Barrett. This match was, and I haven't said this in a while, underrated. It's a must-watch due to the quick and fluid offense from Rey Mysterio. Drew McIntyre put in a performance that was pretty much untouchable. Just watching it again, it strikes me as odd as to why he wasn't pushed afterwards. He was talented then and there. I mean, it all worked out for the better, but just thinking about it, he definitely deserves to be pushed after this. He threw Rey like a dart, showed brutality and intensity unlike the others. The crowd was so damn into it, as was I, and you can't go wrong in saying this is a top 5 chamber match, because it just might belong on that list. Spots were coming along like rainfall. Rey was jumping off pods. Booker and Cole were marking out, and I legit lost count on the awesome spots that occurred throughout the match. And it ended with the same 2 men that started things off. Rey was on that upgraded stat plan, but even then it wasn't enough to score that W. and it took a freaking super spear for Edge to retain. Yeah, I retract my statement from earlier on. This is a top 5 chamber match for me. If you disagree, please watch it and come back to me. It certainly belongs on that list. After the match, though, Del Rio made the attack. Fans are booing. The chamber had yet to be raised, and he locked in a cross arm breaker. There was no hope for Edge, but then his good buddy Christian returned. It was the first time Christian had appeared in WWE in about 5 months. He comes in with a tackle, delivers some quick shots, and he refused to listen to them and knocked out the Royal Rumble winner with the kill switch. Regardless of what went down, Edge stood tall as the World Heavyweight Champion. Before fully focusing on Del Rio, Edge managed to get rid of Vicky Guerrero, and following this, she went to Raw, where she managed Evan Bourne's brother, and as for Edge, he was once again attacked by Del Rio. And yes, he was locked in the cross arm breaker. So we're off to the road to WrestleMania 27. Anyways, the March 4th, 2011 episode of SmackDown featured the contract signing for the matchup. Edge was craving a confrontation as he felt being a champion is something that was foreign to Del Rio. And as the champ was talking about this, Drew McIntyre, who was angry over Kelly being fired, held Edge responsible for this and attacked him. Teddy Long comes out, books him in the match, and threatens to fire Drew. As for how it went, well, the Ultimate Opportunist had a rare submission win. Around this time period, Edge began bringing back that sharpshooter variation of his. I believe it's called the Educator. He used it occasionally. It wasn't that often. Meanwhile, El Patron was too busy observing a painting, and he wasn't the only one keeping an eye on this because a certain opportunist was lurking. He eventually desecrated it, and did this guy seriously die from an Edge push? So Del Rio comes out all happy. He demands Ricardo sing the Mexican national anthem, and if you know WWE, it's a way of getting heat even though it's a patriotic man. Edge, though, rudely interrupts, and Teddy Long didn't want this to escalate further, so he demanded they be seated. The champion said that once the contract's signed, there's no turning back for Alberto. Unlike the challenger, he's been on a big stage of WrestleMania, and as a matter of fact, he's won the world title 11 times. Del Rio brushed it off, saying nobody remembers that, and WrestleMania signifies the future of the WWE. Edge offered his rebuttal to this Destiny statement, saying, "Destiny's funny. Either you make good on your potential, or you'll be a flash in the pan." Del Rio agreed that once he signs the contract, it's the beginning of the end, but not for himself, but for Edge. They both signed, and the match is officially set. Teddy knew where this was heading, and it's on. Edge quickly delivered some punches, was completely enraged and hit the execution, and as he goes for the spear, Ricardo gets involved, leading to the challenger taking back control. And yes, he locked him on the cross arm breaker for the 17th time. That wasn't even it though. He attempted to break the arm using a chair when Christian, who ironically was injured the same way in storyline, finally makes the save. Regarding that attack, Edge was completely unfazed. Sure, he bled from his nose, but who cares? He's interested in the fight with Del Rio, and if he doesn't come out in that instance, well, he'll search for him. Del Rio gives in to Edge's request, and he didn't appreciate Edge's tone, but then again, the champion could care less about what Del Rio has to say, calling him a Ricky Martin ripoff. What? Because of this whole ordeal, Del Rio had to remind him that he was the same man who injured his arm, and his legacy at WrestleMania is going to be replaced. They enter the ring, Edge tries fighting them off, but clearly fails, and so Christian, once again, comes to his partner's aid. He sprints into the ring, takes down Del Rio, but runs into Tyrus, but then Teddy Long's music plays, and you know what's up. It's Friday. 4 wrestlers are in the ring trying to solve their issues. It is clear what was going to happen. Also, I don't know if it's just me, but was 2011 the year that featured the most tag team matches booked by Teddy Long or something? Like, every episode I see from 2011 involved at least one tag team match. But yes, Edge and Christian were going to team up for the first time in 10 years on SmackDown. It's been a long time coming. For years, E and C were separated, and whenever they did actually meet, it wasn't on positive terms. It's refreshing. About the match itself, Brodus was a big titan, but he hit a rated R roadblock, so you know one. Heading into WrestleMania, both Del Rio and Edge were tasked to face the sidekick. I'm sorry, Christian. Edge beat Brodus again, whereas Del Rio had to beat Christian in a grueling steel cage match. It was a very evenly contested bout that resulted in Christian actually beating the Royal Rumble winner. After the match, though, it was a totally different story. Edge had to jack in his car in order to get his attention, and of course, the challenger couldn't do anything because the champ could destroy his vehicle. Luckily for Del Rio, Big Brodus came in from behind, leading to a concerto on that left arm. Edge had enough of this, but it was at the worst time possible because Teddy Long enforced the Teddy Long special, that being the no-touch rule. If they fight, it means no WrestleMania match for them. Del Rio, on the other hand, wanted to inflict additional damage to Edge as he felt that since there was 9 days left, there was a lot of time for him to hurt Edge. With Edge being untouchable, it gave him time to recover from that arm injury. All they could do was beat the other man, and in Del Rio's case, he actually lost to Christian for the second time. For all the hype they were giving Del Rio, he certainly wasn't winning a lot at this time. After the match, though, Edge was this close to hitting the concerto, but Christian was smart to remind him of WrestleMania, so he did it instead. Basically, Edge had reached the breaking point. You know, he turns into this crazy man occasionally. It's always entertaining stuff. Like, I love seeing him go bananas. It's one of the things I really love about Edge. And despite that Teddy Long rule, Edge actually got his hands on Del Rio. The loophole, though, was the fact that it's on Raw. So they fought again in tag team action. Edge, in spite of the fact that he was hurt, was still on fire in the ring. Brodus took the L, and after the match, Del Rio locked his buddy in the cross arm breaker. Champ chases him off only to get ambushed, and yes, the arm was targeted once more. So looking at the build-up, Edge barely got anything over Del Rio. Sure, he was winning matches left and right, whereas Del Rio was taking L's, but in storyline, things weren't looking good for him in Atlanta. As for Del Rio, like I said, it's odd how he never beat Christian in a singles match. It's just something WWE would have done for certain. Like, I would have bet money on this before making this video that Del Rio was going to beat Christian in the build. The expectation for their match on April 3rd was mixed. Most were leaning towards Del Rio, and I do remember the build and thinking Christian was going to turn heel. It just had that feeling to it. Add to that, he accompanied Edge to the ring, but I was wrong. Now, about the match itself, it was pretty damn good, and coming out of a weak-ass WrestleMania, it stands out as a positive in my eyes. Why is that? Well, the story of it. Del Rio was intelligent enough in going after the arm that he injured. Also, it's cool seeing Edge actually retain a title at WrestleMania, but with that said, when things got going for Edge initially, Del Rio targeted that arm. Because the pace was slow, the fans had to rally the Rated R Superstar on to start fighting back, and even then he had to capitalize on the challengers and mistakes to rest that arm. Champ goes for aerial moves, but being hurt cost him, and in that moment, Alberto was smart enough to go not for a superplex, but an arm drag. After a while, the Rated R Superstar finally completed the comeback. Back and forth action from here on. Ricardo tried helping his buddy. Christian got into it with Brodus, and then the ring Edge had things figured out. But Del Rio moves out of the way, leading to Brodus ramming that arm into the post. Cross arm breakers in, and things were looking really, and I mean really bleak for Edge. But he managed to hold on and even managed to lock him in his variation of the sharpshooter. Christian, meanwhile, hit a tornado DDT on Big Clay. Del Rio escapes the hold, but quickly runs into the spear. 1, 2, 3. Good. I explained why I liked it. I assume you guys will like it as well. It wasn't superb, but for an 11-minute match, good. Edge finally walks out of WrestleMania as champ. That's one thing to know. After the match, though, he decided to add insult to injury by causing turmoil and chaos. Add to that depression to Del Rio by destroying his car. Before I move on, I gotta mention the fact that some people didn't like the fact that the Royal Rumble winner opened the show. I agreed that it should have happened later on, but an opening match sets the tempo for the show, so it's important that they place a good match there. Some feel that like it devalues the world title. I always felt the world title was important until like 2012 or something like that. That's just me personally. I want to know what you guys think. With that said, after his loss at WrestleMania, Alberto Del Rio let out all his anger on poor Evan Bourne, who was folded like an accordion. He didn't even come out in a luxury car. But anyways, fast forward to SmackDown, the Enemy of Destiny opened up the show. I don't know why he introduced himself again, we know his name, but the point of his appearance was to let us know that Destiny could be delayed. It was delayed by Edge and the coward, the Perro Christian. He was going to do everything Edge did to his car to him in due time, but all of a sudden, the champ interrupts. He wasn't alone though. Freaking Christian was riding a tow truck from the Briscoe brothers, and I just love that running gag. The Rated R Superstar said that when he heard Del Rio say the car was like his child, something had dawned on him. Like a child, he was supposed to love the car unconditionally. Sure, he may be damaged, but that can be fixed. Edge fixed, translation, added additional damage to the vehicle, and the rich guy mentioned how he almost won by submission when the world champion shouted that he didn't. You know, he could've, would've, should've. He failed to get the job done, and that's why he stands there without a title. So Alberto demanded a rematch. Edge responded in such confusion after hearing that statement, as he felt that there was others who were more deserving of having that title. But regardless of Alberto's statement, Edge was ready for a fight. Mac Militant plays in, he fixes things. It was going to go this way. Del Rio was going to face Christian in a match, with the winner facing Edge at Extreme Rules. Oh, and it's going to be a ladder match. As for how that went, well, Del Rio stole the match. During the bout, however, there was a moment where Edge speared Brodus but felt pain in his neck, and for some reason, I always thought that was the reason why he retired. Edge beforehand had already known that he was wrestling on borrowed time. Add to that, he took a test the day before, which was April 4th, the night after WrestleMania. So either way, it was going to come out that he was supposed to retire by the looks of it. Unfortunately, though, that was the last time in a very long time that we'd see Edge hit the spear. Now, the story goes, Edge already had neck issues. This is apparent, but he had sensed something was wrong before WrestleMania. The straw that broke the camel's back was when Brodus hit him with a chair, as afterwards he lost feeling in his arms, so the WWE forced him to get an MRI. Initially, Edge knew that he was wrestling on borrowed time, so he asked if it was possible to see out his contract, which was expiring after WrestleMania 28. They were like, yes, you can, but the night after WrestleMania 27, they asked him to get another MRI. Come Thursday, it was really bad. On the April 11th, 2011 episode of Raw, the World Heavyweight Champion Edge made an abrupt appearance on Raw. WWE.com had been promoting his appearance, and there was speculation from the commentary team that it wasn't good. Edge grabbed the mic, talked about how he broke his neck 8 years ago, and how recently he's been in pain because of this. WWE wanted him to get tests. The MRI showed that he's got to retire. Well, Looking back at it, it was so, and I mean so damn sudden. Nobody, and I mean nobody expected Edge to come out and announce this. It seemed to be storyline related, but it wasn't, unfortunately. He said that he felt anger towards his body because he was letting a lot of people down. Add to that, he wasn't ending things on his terms. Luckily, Christian was there for him at this difficult moment, and the silver lining in all of this is the fact that he held the record for most championships in WWE history at the time. And retiring after walking out of WrestleMania as a champ is incomparable to anything else. The Ultimate Opportunist joked about his past with a Brood, with Christian and all that, and then said this. He said that if you'd asked him if he'd do it again, he'd say, quote unquote, in a heartbeat. He thanked everyone before making his exit. It was definitely in the top 5 most emotional moments of the 10s. It's just so damn sudden. Edge was in midst his first real title run as a good guy, and it ended after only 5 months. The face run was way better than his other one in 2010. It was clicking, and it was unfortunately taken away from him. Friday saw Edge relinquish his world championship. Del Rio obviously knew about this and addressed the Rated R superstar retiring. He said that tonight wasn't about himself, it was about Edge. This was his life, his passion, his love, and despite the fact that it was his destiny to be world champion, he never wanted it like this. But since Edge was here to surrender the title, and he's #1 contender, well, he should be presented with a belt. Teddy Long comes out, and fortunately he had other plans. Instead, Del Rio will face the winner of a 20-man over-the-top rope battle royal, and upon hearing this, the Mexican aristocrat began complaining in Spanish, and even went as far as to call it a conspiracy. Hell, he admitted that he was glad Edge got hurt, even held himself responsible for the retirement, even though that wasn't a fact. Teddy had to tell him that his destiny was to shut up, and as for Edge, they gave him an incredible tribute, showcasing his days in the Brood all the way up to his first WWE title. And just watching this, I am so damn glad that he got to come back on his own terms and compete in the main event of WrestleMania. This whole thing, it was taken away from him with no warning, and this video package just truly shows how lucky we are, how lucky Edge is to have made that return. In the back, several veterans shook the Rated R superstar's head ahead of his final moments as a World Heavyweight Champion. Fans showered him in applauses, showing their respects, and he said that he'll never get tired of the cheers. He relayed the information from Monday, and he thanked Alter Bridge for the coolest song in the WWE. He said that whenever he makes his entrance and the fans feed him energy, it's remarkable. They gave him goosebumps. So he asked him to do it one more time, and he ran all the way to the back. Fans loudly chanted, Edge, 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 you think you know me, please? And he does it one final time, even did the pyro as well. Despite retirement, he was happy about his future life. He'll go surfing, go to Nicaragua, wear suits, and even admitted that this suit was $100 from JCPenney. One thing to know, and this is something Edge said himself, is that he won his first WWE title in Albany, even developed the name Edge here, and he was going to retire here. There was also a thank you mom chant after he referenced her, and lastly, Edge said that the world title meant everything to him, but now it's time to do what he's got to do, and that's to relinquish the World Heavyweight Championship. Before leaving, Edge thanked the fans once again for the ride, and so that's the run. I set the stage for a future video as well. Randy Orton and Christian. It'll be much better in quality, and there won't be that annoying soundbite in the beginning, you know, the one more match was so loud. All that, it's gonna be better. And I sounded pretty damn annoying in that video. I probably sound annoying now, but it's much less than I did in the past. But in regards to Edge, many say they stopped watching SmackDown, hell WWE after he retired. It goes to show just how good of a wrestler, a character he was. Had Edge never retired then and there, I personally believe he would have won more world titles. He was only 37, and at this point, WWE started to prioritize part-time talent. We probably could have seen a Brock Lesnar match, and it's just a damn shame. As for what his plans were had he remained, well, this is what he had to say in March of 2012, and I quote, I wanted to try and build it to Christian and I at WrestleMania if it was possible. It looked like if I would have stuck around, it would have happened before that, and I think we would have got to him and I this year. I was kind of hoping that this would be the last year, last Mania, and gauge it from there. If I had another year left in me, sign for another year because my contract is up this month. This was in April of 2012, I should note. I thought I'll sit down at this year's WrestleMania and see where I'm at. But if it could have built to where it would have been Christian and I at this year's WrestleMania, then I don't think there would have been any other way to go. It's like, why bother? So I can do another year just to do another match? That won't mean as much to me in the final match. But I had been mentally preparing for this. I knew or assumed that it would be this year, so it wasn't that hard to come to terms or grips with. I just think it's a lot harder for other people. I've had a lot of grown men come up to me, man, I'm just so bummed. I was crying. I was like, thanks, but I knew what was going on in my body, so it wasn't as much of a shock to me, I guess. Damn. Overall, the run was much better than his 2010 one. The opportunity only came to be because The Undertaker was hurt, and SmackDown lacked top faces. The only other guy they had was Rey Mysterio. Otherwise, he probably would have remained on Raw. My favorite match from this run, this title reign, was the Elimination Chamber match. It was quick, brutal, and I can't say it's anything other than superb. It was that damn good. Otherwise, Edge was consistent with his performances. You know, Ziggler, Del Rio, all were good. And had he never retired, I think Christian would have cost him the gold at Extreme Rules. So yeah, that's Edge's title reign. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it back then. I enjoyed it here. So yeah. What do you guys think of Edge's title reign? Please comment down below. And that's your first video. Make sure you hit the education on the like button and perhaps the spear on the subscribe button. Peace. I'm out.